In October 1950, 4 months after the start of the Korean War, American Air Force's B-29 and B-51 aircraft were wreaking havoc in North Korea. The American Army, pushing the North Korean Army back, had reached the banks of the Yalu River, which was in a way a knock on the Chinese border of the American Army. After this, the real story of this war began, when China's largest leader, Mao Zedong, was pointed at by more than 2 lakh Chinese soldiers. At the same time, they jumped into the war at the same time. After this, the whole picture of the war changed, and America had to flee. But today is a different time, where China and America are emerging as the 2 great powers of the world, and both have more than one military capability. For many years, the relationship between the two has been seen to be very bad, and the point had come to the point that the situation of war has also arisen between them. But what will happen if there is really a war between the two? Who is so powerful, and what strategy will this country adopt in this war? Let's find out. Look, in the last few years, many major changes have been seen in global politics, in which the rise of China and the increasing rivalry between the USA and China is a historical event. In the last century, after World War II, the US-Soviet Cold War ended in 1990, after which America emerged as the undisputed king of international politics like a superpower, whose dominance is still going on. But now China has started challenging this dominance somewhere. Due to the rapid economic rise, today China is the second largest economy in the world with a GDP of $18 trillion, due to which it is possible to emerge as its great power. For many years, China, which was peacefully focusing on its domestic politics, which was now suffering starvation and poverty, has also taken itself very far internationally today. This is why we are hearing news of Chinese expansion from the South China Sea to the Indian Ocean and Africa, the threat of missile attacks by the US to the trade war Australia, or direct confirmation in Doklam and Galwan against India. All these are the outcomes of China's rising power. In this context, many scholars even claim that perhaps the new Cold War has begun, in which China is standing against the USA today. First of all, let's talk about the numbers of these 2 armies. The real secret of any country's strength is money, and that too a lot. A country with a strong economic system can spend more money on its army. With this, one country can develop new techniques and leave other countries behind. If you look at the data of 2022, then the US GDP is $25 trillion and China's GDP is $18 trillion. According to the World Bank, America spends $876 billion on its army in a year. This means that 40% of the world's army spending is done by only one country. This is why the US military is seen all over the world in different countries, while China spends $293 billion in a year. That is, America's economy is still 1.4 times larger than China, and its defense budget is about 3 times larger than China. But this is China's official budget, and the actual budget can be much larger than this. If we just talk about the ability to spend, then America is far ahead of China. But China's People's Liberation Army is the largest army in the world, which has 20 lakh active members. While in America, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, a total of 13 lakh soldiers. That is, China's weakness is more here. If there is an all-out war between them, then China's number 1. 4 billion population can become their strength. 2 crore people can join the army in China, while there are only 40 lakh people in America who can join the army. If we look at both the armies, Navy and Air Force, then China has 5,000 tanks, and America has 4,600 tanks. That is, both the countries are almost around each other. If we talk about air power, then China has 1,200 fighter jets, and America has 1,800 fighter jets. China has only 913 helicopters, while America has 5,700 helicopters. In the case of Air Force, America is much ahead of China in this, but when it comes to the Navy, then you can see the real strength of China. Both countries have about 60 submarines, but China's total Navy fleet is 730, and America's 472. So if we talk about numbers, somewhere China is ahead, somewhere America. But America has left the whole world behind in the matter of nuclear weapons. China has 410 weapons, but America has 12 times more, i.e., 5,224 warheads. Here America gets the biggest benefit. But China has one more secret weapon, and that is the biggest weapon of today's technology, cyber attack. But if you look at it, then China and America are about 300 kilometers away from each other, and it has been seen all over the world that most of the wars are on the borders, and America and China do not share borders anywhere. So the question here is, where will this fight be fought? This war is not in the American continent or Europe, but it is most likely to be in the Indo-Pacific, far from there. Because the Indo-Pacific is the region where the world's busiest sea routes are. From where 50% trade passes today, there are also the most crucial points of the world, such as the Strait of Malacca, Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb are located. African countries with massive resources here, due to which China is investing the most through its Belt and Road Initiative. China and the US both know the importance of the Indo-Pacific, so China has not pushed the BRI and USA, but the Trans-Pacific Partnership in these regions. Apart from this, the USA is one of the biggest strategic allies. Taiwan is also located here, which China considers its part. But due to the support of the US, it has not been able to control it till date. In addition, North Korea, which threatens the USA every time, is also here, which is fully supported by China. But in this Indo-Pacific Ocean, China has already made its grip strong. If China wants to attack the US, then China will make 2 attacks at the same time. One attack will be on Taiwan and the second attack will be on the US. As mentioned earlier, China will make its most powerful attack on the US, which is the cyber attack. Their hackers will attack the electricity grids, water systems, and communication networks of the different cities of the US, so that the attention of the US is lost and the US is unable to help Taiwan. Taiwan is important for China because this small country blocks China's entry into the Pacific Ocean. As we have said that the Navy is very powerful, but there is a problem here too. Japan and South Korea have 123 US military bases. In addition to this, Japan also has 53,000 US soldiers. Breaking contact with them will be China's first step. That is, China will first attack their communication network. After this, their next step will be to fire rockets at this place. China has more than 4,000 missiles. With this, they can also target the US ships and also target the US military bases in Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines, so that the US cannot plan a counterattack from here. But China also needs to be very careful here, because civilians are also at risk in these attacks. That is, if ordinary citizens die while attacking, then these 3 countries will immediately become enemies of China. Along with this, China has also made many artificial islands in the South China Sea. Here he kept making his military presence and the US kept watching. In addition to this, China has also been successful in investing in many infrastructure projects. Here China's BRI strategy has come to work. In this, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, Gwadar Port, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, Coco Island in Myanmar, Chittagong Port in Bangladesh and Djibouti, Dar es Salaam region in East Africa. Projects such as Mombasa and Lamu are included. The US's traditional ally Pakistan is now China's ally, and there is also China's official military base in Djibouti, and he is operating an intelligence gathering facility in Coco Island in Myanmar. In addition to these official facilities, there is also news that China is slowly trying to establish bases in many other places through string of perks strategy and dead trap strategy. In addition to this, in the last 20 years, China has developed its own strategy by taking lessons from the Gulf War and the Iraq War. By the way, many crucial military bases of the US are in the Indo-Pacific. But according to Rand Corporation, these military bases are geographically close to China, and that is why China is in a better position to attack them easily. If China has hackers, then America also has 2 secret weapons. America's first weapon is the American dollar. Because of the American dollar, America is a superpower, and every country in the world uses dollars. Because of this American dollar, America can impose restrictions on China. China has everything, but not oil. China takes its 19% oil from Russia, but all the rest of the oil comes from its Middle East, where America's pressure is already very high. This means that if the Middle East country comes with America, then the restrictions will have a deep effect on China. America's second weapon is its network. America is a part of NATO, and in the Article 5 of NATO, it is said that if any member of NATO attacks the country, it means that the entire NATO has been attacked. That is, if China attacks America, then in a way this war will also be fought with Europe. That is, Europe will stop its trade with China. Because of this, somehow China will survive for a few months. But in the long term, it is certain to face problems. By the way, to avoid these situations, China has been doing a lot of planning for the past 20 years. It wants to trade with its 7 countries in the UN so that the dominance of the dollar can be reduced in the world. But despite so many years of effort, China was able to capture only 3% of the world trade. By the way, America will not be alone in this war. With America, Japan, Australia, and Canada's Navy will also join, and NATO is always there for support. Because of this, China will be surrounded in 2 to 3 days, and in the meantime, the government of Taiwan will try to stop the Chinese attack so that China cannot occupy. With this, America has made a new strategy, especially against China last year, which is called Rapid Dragon, in which a cargo aircraft can be converted into a weapon carrier without any modification. With this, these cargo planes will be converted into big bombers and can be used for atomic attacks if needed. Apart from this, it has been published in many places that what the Chinese military shows is not actually there, and there are some hidden weaknesses of the Chinese military. The first weakness is the structural problem and lack of reforms of the People's Liberation Army. On the one hand, China has modernized its weapons, but it is far behind in armed forces reforms. Because of this, it may face a lot of difficulties in implementing this modern technology. Xi Jinping talked about reforms in the military command structure in 2015, which are outdated and are prone to a lot of corruption. Because of this, PLA's joint exercises are not effective. PLA is divided in many military regions. Apart from this, PLA is facing a lot of manpower challenges because of which its military personnel are not very skilled and educated. And all this is happening because of corruption. Xi Jinping may have started military reforms, but the final milestone of these reforms is 2049, when PLA can rise like a fully modernized and world-class force. But this is a long time, and how successful these reforms will be is also doubtful. These were the arguments that can help us understand the possibility of winning and losing in the possible war between the US and China. But we can only hope that the way we are in a highly complicated situation with weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons, it would be good for humanity if there is no war between these great powers. So friends, these were the possibilities of war between China and the US. Who do you think will win? Do tell us in the comments.